So let's get into this. Let's talk about homeopathy and constipation, the top 8 homeopathic remedies. So, a lot of people suffer from constipation. You may suffer it yourself. Many people suffer it, and it can be the elderly, it can be babies, infants, it can be when you get pregnancy. It's very, very common. And often the NHS definition of constipation is that you haven't been to the toilet at least 3 times during the week. And often the stool is large, it can be very dry and hard or lumpy, and you're having to strain when you go to the toilet to have a bowel movement. You're having to strain. You also may have stomach ache as well and feel bloated and feel sick. You don't feel great, you feel sluggish. And in a healthy digestive system, they say there should be at least 1 bowel movement a day, at least once a day. So really, really important that you keep a note of that, especially again with kids as well. So some of the common causes of constipation: not eating enough fiber, which is found, as you know, in fruits, vegetables, cereals, not drinking enough fluids. So again, just watching your fluid intake, especially when we have warm weather, but just generally, monitor your fluid intake. You need to be drinking water. Not moving enough and spending long periods sitting or lying down. Big problem at the moment with people, especially a lot of people still working from home. You can be sat at your desk all day or sat at your table where you're working and not moving around. I'm a big believer, and I've got one here, standing desk. I like to change the position. I have a little bleep as well, which goes off, which says if I've been sitting for too long, to start moving around. Movement's really, really important. Being less active and not exercising, as I said, got to keep moving, got to do some exercise, got to keep movement. And often ignoring the urge to go to the toilet. So you may want to go, you have the urge, but you hold it back because you may be busy, or it might not be the right time. Some people don't like using public toilets. Some people don't like using other people's toilets. So it can be a mixture of all those things. Changing your diet or daily routine, that can affect and cause constipation. Again, like go on holiday, for example, or go away. A side effect of allopathic medication. So things like painkillers, they can have an effect on your bowel movements and cause constipation. Stress, anxiety, depression, grief, all this emotional state can have an effect and can cause constipation, as well as causing things like diarrhea. So your emotions can be very much connected. And as I said, constipation is very common in pregnancy and for at least 6 weeks after giving birth. So, common around with the hormone level changes, it can be a big factor in constipation. Again, very, very common in people who are pregnant. Rarely constipation is anything to be worried about or cause a medical condition. And there's a lot of things that you can actually, do yourself. So how do you prevent it? Well, again, drink more fluids, avoid alcohol, prune juice. Big thing about prunes. Remember my grandmother talking about taking prunes to stop constipation, because it's a gentle laxative. And if you're taking a glass every morning as a juice, it can help shift some cases of constipation. Again, eating more fiber, form of seeds, nuts, fruits, salads, vegetables, bran, oats, linseed. We'll talk about linseed in a moment, which is really, really good for constipation. And reduce processed food that lack fiber. Eat real food. Eat real food. At least 80% of your diet. I have this a lot with clients and patients. Well, I don't know what to eat. I say, well, start eating real food. If it comes out of a box, it ain't real. If it comes from a factory, have something, eat real food. Really important. Should be a major part of your diet. Again, talking about exercise, moving more, and keep a regular time and place, and give yourself plenty of time when you go to the toilet. Take plenty of time when you go to the toilet. And don't delay, as we said, when you feel the urge to go. Now, some good healthy things you can try yourself at home. Black sesame seeds or walnuts. So get some black sesame seeds and walnuts and in equal quantities and fry them. Dry fry them in a pan or a wok. Don't use any oil, and just do it till it's slightly toasted. And then allow them to cool, and then crush them like in a pestle or mortar. Crush them and take a tablespoon every day with like half a pint of water, okay, at the same time. So this water will be directed into the large intestine, causing the bowels to start to move. So people swear by that. They really think it really helps. And the other one that really helps people is organic golden linseed. So organic golden linseed is rich in fiber and many other nutrients which will stimulate peristalsis. You want to stimulate the movement. You need to break the shell of the seed. Otherwise, the body will just pass it straight through. And you can add it to breakfast by grinding it and take 1 or 2 tablespoons, or soak overnight and in water and then add it the next morning. And you can add it to a smoothie or sprinkle it onto your cereal. It's entirely up to you. But there's 2 things people do swear by. It really, really helps, especially stubborn constipation. But let's look at some homeopathic remedies that you can try. So the first one we're going to talk about is alumina. You might not find this over the counter. You may have to order this from the homeopathic pharmacy. But this is for really obstinate, severe constipation. Not even an urge to go. Not even an urge to go. Very, 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 very like stuck. The keynote to alumina is dryness. Big dryness is a big keynote for this remedy. It's really good for babies or infants, or the elderly that haven't passed a stool in days. And it's constipation with lack of symptoms. But one of the strange, rare, and peculiar symptoms is they can only pass a stool if they're standing over the toilet, all over the potty. And a lot of effort to pass the stool. Great straining. And I said it's a big remedy for paralysis of the stool. This is like it's just not working. And so often evacuation is preceded by painful urging, the urge to go, and then long before the stool, and then straining at stool, okay? And straining at stool. But often the stool will be hard, dry, knotty. I said with no desire, it can look like sheep's dung. Have you ever seen sheep dung in a field? It can look like sheep's dung. And the rectum can be sore and it can be inflamed from the straining and the passing and the constipation. Confusion, slowness of mind, they can have with it as well. And it feels like everything dries up with this remedy. Everything dries up and slows down. Dries up and slows down. Worse for potatoes or any form of starch, and can be a lot really, really worse from the constipation from potatoes. Bottle-fed babies, it can affect the bowels. Artificial food in the morning. Also, the moon can have an effect as well. The moon phases, full moon, new moon, that can have an effect as well. So better for moderate exercise, better in the evening, better for warm drinks. Craves dry food. They only want dry food, no sauces, no milk, dry food. Okay, but think of this thing of everything dries up, everything slows down. And we mentioned about the moon cycles. You see this in with remedies. Some people are worse for the moon, full moon, better for the new moon. All these things can all have an effect on the remedies. And as we go on, we'll see other remedies that have that effect as well. So we're all connected to these cycles, just like the menstrual cycle, hormonal cycles. It's all about rhythm. It's all about cycles. Next remedy is Bryonia. So Bryonia, the stools are very large, dry, black, as if burned. And they can smell like old cheese. Right? You want to open the window after you've been to the bathroom. Hard and painful to pass with great effort. And again, dryness. Again, this is a common theme in constipation. But dryness, very hard and painful. Can have burning pains in the anus when passing stools. And again, Bryonia is great, as we said, about constipation, particularly in pregnancy and in babies. With Bryonia, as we know, we've covered Bryonia before in other videos, that they have a burning thirst, an unquenchable thirst for cold drinks, and may have a dry mouth and dry lips. Again, dryness all over. Keynote for Bryonia is they're very irritable. They want to be left alone. Very bad-tempered. Okay, and can get headaches from constipation. Well, they don't call it, the head is, remember we did headaches? The head is really, really, even to move their eyes is painful. Worse for motion, worse hot weather, better hard pressure, maybe pressing into the abdomen, or even when they're straining to go to the toilet, pressing into the abdomen, and better being alone. Next remedy, calc carb. Large, hard stools, and may even get a prolapse or hemorrhoids from straining in constipation. And the constipation, it's not uncomfortable. They don't feel uncomfortable and often can feel better in themselves with constipation. Again, a strange, rare, peculiar symptom. So it's not painful or uncomfortable with it, but there's a slowness and a sluggishness of the digestion with calc carb. And the stools, when they pass them, will smell very sour. Keynote of calc carb, sour smelling discharges, including stools. And the stool can look hard and pasty, like clay or like chalk. Okay? A main remedy for constipation for babies and infants. This is why I've got this picture of the baby here. Big remedy for babies and infants, as well as aluminum, as we talked about. Excuse me. They moan and cry. A lot of body movement, so they'll be moaning if the baby's moving around, and then they pass a large stool, okay, in the nappy. Or before and you'll know. It's like, oh yeah, do you want to go to the toilet? And you put them on the potty, or if they're an infant, you take them to the toilet. Can crave eggs and indigestible things. So you can see this in adults as well as children. Okay, adults as well as children. And again, if you watch previous videos, we've talked about calc carb a lot. And the whole characteristics of how they are as their constitution. So calc carb, great remedy, as we said, for children and for infants. Next remedy, natrium mure. So in nat mure, they're very dry stool again, hard and crumbly. And often they'll describe it like it's coated with a glassy mucus around it. This is a remedy where they get constipation away from home. Constipation away from home due to their inability to use other toilets than their own. They have this thing about they can only use their own toilet. They can't use anybody else's toilet. They can't use public toilets because the thing with nat mure, you might smell it or you may hear them and they'd be mortified. Very private natrium mure, very private people. Or going to the friend's house, there'll be again same thing, smell, noise. They'll be spraying air cans, but they won't go. So they get constipated away from home. And that can be like a week of constipation because they can't go. Very reserved and cautious, natrium mure, hates fuss and attention. So that's part of their character. And ailments from grief, loss, disappointed love. And if you want to check out the grief video we did, please check it out. We did one a few months ago about all the remedies for grief. Constricting of the rectum with burning, tearing and itching about the anus after going to the stool. So they can feel like it tears the anus. Sometimes it can be little fissures, little splits in the anus because the stool is so hard and dry as they pass it. As I said, anal fissures, bleeding and smarting, and hemorrhoids with soreness, and after stool with stinging pains. So again, it can cause hemorrhoids with the straining. Worse at the seaside, worse strong emotions. So they get emotional, then they may go for a few days, because they're holding on to the emotion. That's what natrium mure does. They hold on to the emotion. Better open air, better for rubbing, maybe rubbing the tummy. Desires salt, keynote for natrium mure, and very thirsty. Okay, very thirsty, crave salt. Natrium mure. Next remedy, great picture here. You can see the nux vomica. Look, he's on the toilet and he's still working. That's natrium mure. That's nux vomica. Sorry, they're constantly working, work, business, work, business. So this is inactivity and obstinate constipation. They just cannot go, won't move. After lots of rich food, overeating, or too many laxatives. So nux vomicas often have abused laxatives a lot. But as you know from nux vomica, that the overeat, especially rich food, alcohol, rich food, it's a big keynote for nux vomica. They tend to abuse things, or coffee, or all this stuff. Passes a small amount when they go to the toilet, but it feels like it's unfinished. It just don't feel like it's completed. Then the stool is infrequent and very difficult to pass. They really find, and when it comes, it's a small little amount. It's like, is that it? Is that it? Because nux vomica are very results driven. Can be extremely angry, impatient, like Bryonia, irritable, oversensitive, and they have this overactive mind. They can't switch it off. Worse cold, worse noise. So you're making a noise, it really aggravates them, and they'll be shouting, turn the noise down, be quiet. I'm trying to work, be quiet, I'm trying to rest. Pressure at the clothes at the waist. So they'll undo their belts a lot. They can't stand any pressure around the waist, okay, with nux vomica. Better for naps, they're better for their power nap. They feel, yes, I feel better. Free discharges, better for resting, better for warm drinks, but they're very, very chilly. That's the keynote of nux vomica, they're very, very cold. It's like the whole system is just like cold. The next remedy, opium. So this is for obstinate, painless constipation, no desire to go to the stool. Obviously, this is the homeopathic opium. Again, you'll get this from the homeopathic pharmacies. But it's for obstinate, painless constipation with no desire to go to stool at all. Nothing. Now, this can be constipation from fear, fright, shock, and they have a lack of sensation. They just don't feel any movement at all. And in fact, like everything just stops. They can't even strain. They don't feel anything. But when they do pass stool, it's round, hard, black balls, and often the stool can protrude and recede, which is like another remedy, silica, which we'll talk about. But often it's like hard, black balls that they pass. They can have spasmodic retention of stool in the small intestines and get impacted bowels. So there's that much stool in the bowels, it starts to impact. So again, these people won't go for days and days, just no feeling to go at all. Constipation from poisoning or side effects of medications and drugs. So I see this a lot. This is the remedy for that. Why? Because things like morphine and things like that, this is what it's made from. So it can really cause a lot of constipation or from poisoning. Worse heat, worse during and after sleep, worse alcohol, worse emotions, as we said, fear, fright, or shock. Better cold, constant walking if they can move about, and better for open air. But this is a remedy for fear, fright, or shock. Well, that could be surgical shock as well as emotional shock. They've had an operation and the bowel's not moving. They've had a lot of drugs. The bowels are not moving because of that allopathic medication. Great remedy. Great remedy. Next remedy, sepia. So often seen around pregnancy or around the menstrual period. Large, hard stools covered with great quantity of jelly-like mucus. Okay? Jelly-like mucus in the stool that can't be passed despite straining. It's really difficult to pass. And has a sensation as if there's a lump or a ball in the rectum. Feels like a ball or a lump in the rectum. Not relieved. Even if they go to the toilet, they still have the sensation. And again, they don't feel like they've emptied the bowels fully, but the sensation of lump and a ball in the rectum is keynote for sepia. Gnawing hunger. Empty feeling in the stomach, not relieved by eating. Very irritable. A bit like, again, Bryonia and Nux vomica, but very sensitive. They feel just worn out. They're exhausted often with sepia and get emotionally numb. And they're very irritable with loved ones, with the kids, with their partner. It's like they push them away. It's like because they're tired and they're exhausted. It's like they haven't got the energy. Constipation can cause hemorrhoids in pregnancy. Big remedy for that in pregnancy. It's a big pregnancy remedy anyway. And worse before or during menses. So they can get constipated before or during the menses, during pregnancy, as I said, and after eating. So again, think this is like coming from hormone issues around imbalance in the hormones or changes in the hormones. Then you would think of sepia. Silica. So silica, again, you can see here straining on the toilet. With silica, there's much urging with them. Much urging. But again, it feels like the rectum's just not working. It's paralyzed, but they don't feel they have enough power to pass the stool. It's like they lack grit. Silica's made from grit. It's like it lacks grit. And there's this constant desire, but it's ineffectual to go and have a bowel movement. So they have the desire, but they just can't got the energy to push it out. And they'd be straining and they'd be sweating, again, looking like the picture, going red in the face, but leads to weakness and exhaustion and stinging pain in the rectum. And the stool will start to come out. This is the keynote for silica. It will start to come out, feels like it's coming out, and then it will go back in again. And it's because of the spasmodic constriction of the anal sphincter, what we call a bashful stool. It'll come out, and then the sphincter will put it back in again. So as I said, lack of grit, lack of self-confidence within themselves, quite timid, but they can be stubborn, quite fixed. But there's the thing with silica is often lack of a poor assimilation of food. They look like they need feeding up. They look often malnourished. You know, they need to be, they need some grit. They need some oomph. It's like they don't have the oomph anymore. The vitality's gone. Can cause anal fissures again with this passing of this stool and painful hemorrhoids. And get constipation always before or during period, around the menses. Worse cold, always chilly silica. Worse any draft, you can feel the draft if they leave the door open slightly. Better for warmth. And again, the constipation, they may want to put a hot water bottle on there because just try to help stimulate things. So that's our top 8 remedies, what we've gone through. We talked alumina, we talked about Bryonia, we talked about calc carb, we've talked about opium, we talked about sepia, we talked about silica, and we talked about nux vomica. Was there one more we talked about? Can't remember. I have to go back through the slides. Nature Mure and Nature Mure. So again, I always like to do a little recap on prescribing. So use 6C or 30C of the homeopathic remedy. This is the potencies you're going to get over the counter. And if you know, constipated, you can take one dose every 15 minutes for 3 or 4 doses. And you should see a shift. That, you know, if you get the right remedy, the bowels will start moving. Homeopathy can be quick in that way. If it's more of a chronic problem, then I'd say go and you see a qualified homeopathic practitioner. If it's something you get all the time and you've had it for years, then I'd say go and see a qualified practitioner. But if you got it acutely, then just do it as I said. You can do it every 15 minutes or every hour or every couple of hours until it starts to shift and starts to move. And remember, you're not looking for every single thing I've talked about in each remedy. You're looking for at least the 3-legged stool, these keynotes that you can match with the remedy. Again, it's like a game of Snap, isn't it? You give the remedy according to their characteristic symptoms of what they got. But the remedy, if it's the right remedy, you will start to act. You will feel it. You will feel it working. Okay? So, but again, if it's more chronic, then I would say consult a qualified practitioner because sometimes, you know, something you've had for a long time can be for the reasons, and you need to get behind what those reasons are.